Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right, but nothing was falling into place? Like you're chasing the vision that God has given you for your business, but the doors just aren't opening. Trust me, I've been there. Today, I'm going to share some powerful lessons from the Christmas story that show how God's timing, the unexpected twists and turns, and our immediate actions can shape our journey in ways that we never imagined. So stick around because this could be the breakthrough perspective that you need to keep moving forward in your business and your life. Hi, my name is Demelza and I'm the founder of The Christian Mompreneur, which you can learn more about at thechristianmompreneur.com. Now today we're going to look at Matthew chapter 2, starting with a read-through of the chapter, and then I'll be sharing some thoughts of how that passage could apply to you as an entrepreneurial mum. So let's get started. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked them where the Christ was to be born. "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will be the shepherd of my people Israel." Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and make a careful search for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen in the east went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold and of incense and of myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. When they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," he said. "Take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So he got up, took the child and his mother during the night, and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old or under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. "A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping in great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no more." After Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and go to the land of Israel, for those who were trying to take the child's life are dead." So he got up, took the child and his mother and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee, and he went and lived in a town called Nazareth. So was fulfilled what was said through the prophets, "He will be called a Nazarene." You know what strikes me about the start of this passage is that verse 3 says that when King Herod heard about the King of the Jews being born, all Jerusalem was disturbed with him. Now it makes me wonder what happened after the shepherds had spread the news. Let's go to Luke 2 briefly to see what happens. In Luke 2:17 it says, "When they had seen him," Jesus, "they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them." Luke 2 also talks about Simeon, who spent loads of time at the temple, who recognized Jesus as the Messiah at the time when they came for purification. And there's the prophetess Anna. Verse 38 says, "Coming up to them at that very moment, she gave thanks to God and spoke about the child to all who were looking forward to the redemption of Jerusalem." Since they were in Jerusalem for the purification rites required by the law of Moses, this visit and these encounters with Simeon and Anna would have been 40 days after Jesus was born. Okay, so let's go back to Matthew 2. Doesn't it make you wonder why things don't suddenly take off for Joseph and Mary? The people are waiting for the Messiah, the shepherds Simeon and Anna announce that he's arrived, and nothing happens. That is until the Magi arrived to worship Jesus, and it says that all Jerusalem was disturbed by the news of the new king. Hello? So the chief priests and teachers of the law knew the prophecies and yet didn't follow up on the news from the shepherds, Simeon or Anna, to experience the blessing and privilege of worshipping Jesus when he first arrived, but some unexpected Gentiles did. Does that remind you a bit of your business? Your product or your service is ready to go, and you're keen to start helping those who can benefit from your offer. You make the announcement on social media and your other content channels, and then maybe it's crickets. Nothing much happens. The people you expected to be excited about your offer don't really pay any attention, and while you may get some interest from a few outliers, the expectation that you had that your ideal client was going to love your offer and you'd have a crowd lining up to buy was probably a bit of a letdown in reality. At least I know it is in many people's experience. I feel like this is a really good reminder that some things just take a while to mature. Just as Jesus kind of faded into obscurity for about 30 years before he went public with his ministry, despite clear announcement at his birth, as well as evidence of his divinity when he was 12, talking with the religious leaders at the temple one year. But it just wasn't the right time. If you are just getting started with your business and you're feeling discouraged about people not getting excited about what you're offering and the uptake in sales being maybe slower than you would like, don't give up. It may be that people don't realize just how much your offer will help them. It may be that you need a bit more experience and, dare I say, maturity in some areas before you're ready for what God has in store. Now, I say that with respect because I know that there are people who have seen explosive growth early on, and then they found it difficult to cope with it because they hadn't had the experience needed, which often comes with slower growth. So it may be that it's just not quite the right time yet, which brings me to my next point, which is to trust the twists and turns. Our journeys are not straightforward. So going back to Matthew 2, we see that the Magi recognized the star when it rose, and they put themselves out in order to take a long journey of many miles and weeks to worship Jesus. It clearly meant a lot to them to make the journey, and they weren't even Jews, they were Gentiles. And we've seen that the Jews seem to just ignore the good news and not bother to find out more or worship him themselves. So things are looking at least somewhat positive until God warns the Magi in dreams to not go back to Herod, but to go home a different way. Joseph is also warned to leave with his family immediately and go to Egypt, where he'd basically be like a refugee. It's not like they would have had family or friends there to support them, as would have often happened in that culture when new children were born into a family. They would have felt quite isolated and alone in a culture where they would have likely felt misunderstood. Then, just as abruptly, Joseph is told in a dream again to leave Egypt and go back to Israel, but to go to Nazareth rather than Judea. Needless to say, they had a lot of upheaval in those early years, moving countries at very short notice, and I'm pretty sure that would not have been in their plans to take all those detours before things finally settled for them. Yet all those detours meant that various prophecies would be fulfilled, which would ultimately prove Jesus to be who he says he is. Now, maybe you feel like you've had a lot of detours where your life hasn't exactly gone the way that you planned. You had in mind that you were going to do this, and then suddenly something happens, and now you're heading in completely another direction. And you may wonder, what was the purpose of all the things that happened, or the things that you've done, in light of the new direction your life has taken? How is this all going to come together? Well, I want to reassure you that these detours don't necessarily mean you're out of God's will. If you're seeking him and putting him first in your life, then it's very likely that God is using these circumstances in some way for his future plans for your life, even if it's unclear what that could be right now. Now, obviously, I don't know your life circumstances specifically, but could it be that the detours that God has taken you on so far, and the ones that you're likely to take in the future, do you think these could be used by God to build the basis of your credibility for your clients? If I look at my life and the detours I've taken, I believe that this could actually be true for me. As a child, I wanted to work with animals, but I was also autistic, and I discovered that I was gifted with video. So my direction changed, and I studied film and video production at university. That's a pretty big turnabout, animals to film. Then God gave me the desire to use those video skills I learned at university to be a missionary. And so I tried really hard to raise support as a missionary videographer whilst doing some projects even without full support. But in the end, since I couldn't raise sufficient support, I changed direction again. The idea being that I worked as a freelance videographer. Well, that didn't last long because my health took a dive and I could barely stand up without fainting at one stage. So videography was out, and I had to find something that I could do working from bed at home. And I tried a few different things, scrambling to find direction at this point. And with an improvement in my health, I believed God wanted me to use my video skills to help course creators with video. This could be something I could do from home to support myself and help other course creators to get their message out more effectively. So during this time, I learned a lot about online business and marketing, and I gained experience in a variety of different areas, having done everything myself. But the next twist was that the prospect of a lifelong marriage fell apart, and my path took a very different direction yet again, where I stopped pursuing the video coaching and courses, and ultimately bringing me to this point where I'm talking to you right now. Now, if I had not taken the journey that I have with a variety of different experiences, both personally and professionally, then I wouldn't have the same kind of credibility as I hope that you would recognize in me today. You may still be in a season of detours where you're picking up new skills or experiences that will help you with what God has for you to do. It may not be exactly what you were thinking it was. I'm not doing the missionary videography or even the video coaching now. But I can tell you that it's exciting to see how God can take the skills, the challenges, the disappointments, the good and the bad experiences, the failed business ideas, and everything, bring it all together, a bit like a recipe, to accomplish His purpose. So remember to trust God's timing as well as all the twists and turns He may take you on in your journey to accomplish what He has for you. And the third thing is to take action. You want to act quickly when God speaks. Each time we see God communicating to the Magi and Joseph in dreams, they all acted quickly. They didn't hang around. Joseph in particular packed up with his little family and left for Egypt in the middle of the night. He didn't even hang around until the morning after everyone had a good night's sleep before setting off on a long journey. He didn't take time to work out all the preparations needed for making such a big move. He just did it, even if it didn't make total sense, and he didn't feel prepared. Now, I'm a planner. I love to plan things and be well prepared. However, sometimes it's important to just get started. Some of us can get so stuck in the planning phase of something that we don't take that next step of actually doing the thing. And while there's a place for planning, it's really important that when we believe God is calling us to do something, that we do actually take action immediately. Can you imagine the consequences if the Magi and Joseph hadn't taken immediate action on what God was calling them to do? It could have been disastrous. And while your inaction is unlikely to have the same kind of disastrous consequences as it would have done for the Magi and Joseph, there could still be some kind of consequence or loss if you don't take action, even if it's only that the people that God is calling you to serve with your business don't get the help that they need from you until much later. Can I encourage you to just take action, whatever that looks like for you right now? Take that next step towards your calling. Things don't change when we do nothing. So here are the key things to take away from today's passage in Matthew 2. First of all, we need to trust God's timing. When we have a vision for our business, it can take a while to get where we want, and it can be costly and it can be hard going. But if God is in it, He will bring us to our destination where we can serve our audience and bring Him glory. 2, we need to trust the twists and turns. Similar to what I just said, our journey to our destination may well have a few detours. If things feel thrown off course or it feels like things just aren't opening up in the way that you envisioned, don't give up. Take it a step at a time and God will ultimately make our path straight. And 3rd, we need to take action. Keep taking action no matter how small or big. Don't let the big tasks overwhelm and paralyze you from taking the next step. There are people who need what you have to offer them, so don't hesitate to do what God is calling you to do. Okay, so that wraps up our discussion on Matthew 2, but don't miss our next video as we delve into Matthew 3. We're going to see how John the Baptist's unique lifestyle and bold message drew people to him and how we can stand out and attract others in our own lives and businesses as well.